Welcome, Middlers, to the Medium in the Middle podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I take you on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual exploration. I am a Reiki master teacher, a spiritual and business mentor, and of course, a psychic medium. And I am here to share my story and help you tap into your extraordinary abilities. Join me every Wednesday as we dive into the realms of intuition, energy healing, and all things mystical. Whether you're a seasoned spiritual seeker or just dipping your toes into the magical waters, this podcast is your go-to source for inspiration, guidance, and a whole lot of lessons and laughter along the way. Let's get started. Hello, Middlers. Welcome to episode 228. And this week we are celebrating the Medium in the Middle podcast turning 5 years old. So today's episode is going to be a little walk down memory lane and a recap of the last 5 years of Medium in the Middle. I cannot believe it's been 5 years. It doesn't feel like that long. It does and it doesn't. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's an interesting feeling. I knew this day was coming, but I have a feeling it's going to be hard to put into words. But this episode is not only for me to reflect, but I also want to share about starting the podcast, why I started the podcast, and what it's done for me over the last 5 years. And also, if you are thinking about starting a podcast, I'm going to answer some of my most frequent questions and also share some of the stories from the beginning. Those first 10 episodes of the podcast are just the crazy ones when I realized I could communicate with souls that have passed over. So my intro used to say that this podcast is all of my stories from when I first started realizing I was a medium up until where I am today in my journey. And while that's still true, we are now at episode 228, and so much has happened over the last 5 years. So we're going to talk about it today. Before we jump into that, I do have 2 announcements. The next Mediumship Practice Circle is happening on August 17th. So if you are a new medium, a developing medium, if you are looking for somewhere to practice mediumship, these circles are a great opportunity for you to join and get paired with a stranger where you will give and receive a 20-minute reading. It is $25 Canadian. We get some guidance before you begin, and then we have a discussion afterwards, so you also get to hear from other developing mediums. I've been getting a lot of great feedback on these circles, and I'm trying to host them every single month. So August 17th is the next one, and I have my mentorship program open for the final round of 2024. So if you are looking for a mentor in the Reiki, intuition, mediumship, or business world, I open this program a few times a year, and I accept 12 people in it. And we meet one-on-one, and we'll be meeting from the end of August bi-weekly to the end of November. And it's fully focused on you. You can be at any stage because I get to know you and where you're at, and we work through whatever you need to. If you are trying to figure out your intuition, if you're trying to grow your mediumship, if you're trying to move to paid readings, if you're trying to figure out who to practice with, I will pair you with people every week. So I have an application form just to make sure that I believe that I can help you over the 3 months that we work together, because we do work pretty closely. And I have 4 spots left for this round. I will leave all the links you need with the application down below in the show notes. You can also find it on my website, themediuminthemiddle.com. And I will also leave the link to sign up for the practice circle down there as well. My only other announcement is the next Reiki Level 1 is August 24th and 25th. I believe there is 3 spots left in that course. If you have been waiting to learn Reiki Level 1, those courses, I run a Reiki Level 1 and a Reiki Level 2 every single month. So check that out. And just a reminder, I know I say this all the time, but I only have one Instagram, at Medium in the Middle. There are a lot of scammers, so just beware. I will never message you on Instagram. I will respond to your DMs, but I won't message you asking for a reading. So at Medium in the Middle, that's also where all of my special launches get first access. So if you follow me on Instagram, you get access to everything first. And there will be no card today for the podcast because I just recorded 10 card readings and I'm all cards out. So we're just going to jump right in to this week's podcast, just talking about 5 years of the pod. If you're interested in starting a podcast, this is for you. And also just the reminder of my chapter 1, because especially if you're coming in, if you're new to Medium in the Middle, or if you've been following me for a while and you forget, I just want to share about how long things have taken me and provide some insight into, yes, you can see me now and see where I am, but let's all remember that it takes time to get here. So it is March 2019, and I decided I wanted to start a podcast. Scratch that. I decided I wanted to start a podcast long before March, but March was when I actually ordered the equipment off of Amazon. So I just remember March as being like the beginning. But if we were really going to back it up, in 2018, April is when everything started happening to me. That's when those first few episodes started. Episode 1, the first time. Episode 2, Maria. Episode 3, your dad is here. Episode 4, who's the man in the washroom. So many crazy mediumship experiences were happening to me. I felt like spirit was everywhere. And then I also felt like it was all I could talk about. I've said this story before, but I used to coach CrossFit, and people would be like, "Hey Steph, how are you?" And I would be like, "I think I can talk to the dead." "How are you? Today's workout is burpees and thrusters." Like, it was just so all consuming. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know how to find my tribe. I was like trying to find books and YouTube videos and circles and groups, and nothing was feeling aligned. And it's funny because now sometimes I get people who are still in, the first 100 episodes of the podcast, and they reach out to me and they're like, "If you need someone to talk to, like, I'm here, or I would love to talk." And I was like, "Oh, thank you. Like, that was years ago now. I feel good. I talk about this stuff a lot, but I totally understand the feeling of trying to find someone to talk to." And I know the last 5 years, it doesn't seem like that much time, but even now I feel like there's so many more podcasts. There's so many people online. There's just like, I don't know, I feel like now it's easier to find support in the spiritual realm. And I don't know if I'm saying that because I'm in it. So I'm like, oh, I know a lot of people. But I felt like at the beginning, I was like, where is everybody? Am I the only one that can do this? So anyway, all of this mediumship was developing for the first few months, and I just felt like it was all I could talk about because it was so all-consuming. And then it shifted where I didn't want to talk about it anymore. And I was just like, I need to like record myself saying these stories so when someone says, "Hey, what's new?" I can just say like, "This is what's new." Because I was saying the same stories over and over and over again. And they were crazy stories. Like, go back to the first 10 episodes. They're still the stories I tell when I present, when I teach. They're still like the bangers. But eventually I was like, I can't speak about this anymore. And then I was like, how do I record my voice? I was like, oh, a podcast. So it was a year after my mediumship started developing. And it was March that I finally found a name. So I was stuck on what I was going to call my podcast for a very long time. Steph the Medium, Steph's podcast. Like, I don't even know what my names were, but none of them were good. And it wasn't until I was out at a bar with a friend and she was like, "What about Medium in the Middle? Like Malcolm in the Middle?" And I was like, "Oh, that's it." And I ran home to like buy the domain, save the Instagram name, start the podcast. I was like, I can begin. Finally, I can begin. So, like, just to talk about this, all of this started happening in April. Mediumship development. And then for months, I was repeating myself. I would say for about 3 months until July, I was repeating myself. And then I started to get sick of it. Around August, September, I'm like, okay, I don't want to keep saying this. And then probably around September, 2018 is when I was like, I should start a podcast. And then I didn't have a name from September, October, November, December. And then I bought equipment in March. I think I got the name in February. And it took me March, April, May, June, July, August. I repeat, March, April, May, June, July, August. 6 months to finally release my first episode. And I just really cannot stress those 6 months of recording, trying to get an intro, trying to set up on iTunes, trying to find the best way to launch a podcast. Like, it was 6 months of like figuring it out. And then finally, August 13th, 2019, I released 3 episodes because everything I was learning and all the courses I was taking about podcasting told me to release 3 episodes when you first launch. And they told me to release on Tuesdays because Tuesdays is the best podcast release day. And that's what I did. So I released episode 1 the first time, which talks about my first time with mediumship. Episode 2, Maria, which talks about, I think, the second time with mediumship, but that one's a really sad story. And then episode 3, Your Dad is Here, which is starting to tell the stories about when I was at my friend's house and her grandpa showed up, and Who Was the Man in the Washroom was also that. So then we moved into what happened before the first time, the Thanksgiving dinner guest, episode 7. That one is a crazy story as well. First time I gave a stranger a message, leading all the way up to Josh. Josh is still the craziest story, the reason why I knew I had to start mediumship, and what really changed it for me, what really put me all in. And then I did a group reading test. So obviously when you realize you're a medium, you invite all your friends over and you do a test on them. And that's what I did before I left Ontario and moved to Banff. I was still in Ontario when all of this was happening. And then I had to tell my family, which was weird. So really, if you go back to the episodes in 2019, they're the fresh mediumships, the learning through everything, my most awkward reading. I had to learn how to do house clearings. What happened when I went to yoga class and I started reading in yoga class. When I walked by a graveyard, what happened. Wow, going through all of these episodes is such a walk down memory lane. And to be sitting here 5 years later on episode 228, like, I just am looking back at like baby Steph. I'm like, oh, like I remember how freaked out I was on episode 123. I remember quite literally sitting in the washroom when that Glade plug-in thing went psh, and being so scared, and then being like, oh, there's a man here he has a bald spot on the top of his head, and he has this, and he has this, and he has this, and who is that? And it's just interesting to see now how far I've come, and I'm so proud of myself. So yeah, this whole podcast was started because I was tired of saying all of these crazy stories over and over and over again. I was like, I need something that literally I press play and you can just listen to these stories. So that's what happened. And as soon as I started recording, it felt like a release. It was like therapy. It was like processing. I had this giant PDF file of all the stories and then putting them in chronological order and then things I had to explain before I told this story. And I get asked a lot how long the podcast takes me every week. And I would say in the beginning, easily 8 to 12 hours. Quite easily that first year, it was like 2.5 to 3 days were dedicated to podcast stuff. Now, I would say it's about 4 to 6 hours a week. You want to think about, number one, you have to think about an idea about what you want to talk about. Then you have to kind of outline what you want to talk about. So say I wanted to say 5 points. I want to talk, like list out the 5 points, maybe list out the 3 things per point that I want to make sure I talk about. So I don't script my podcast, but I do have an idea of what I want to say and what I want to include in the stories or analogies. And then also sometimes I just let it channel. And then you have to sit down and record, and then you have to edit, and then you have to release, and then you have to promote, and then you have to send a newsletter, and then you have to tell people there's a new episode. And I've learned over the years, you have to tell people there's a new episode more than once if you want people to listen to your episode. So not only are you recording, editing, and releasing, you're then promoting. So I am probably thinking about what I want to record on Monday, or I already have a plan. Tuesday, I'm recording. Wednesday, I'm edit and releasing. Then Wednesday night, I'm doing promotion. Thursday, I'm sending an email. Friday, I'm sending a promotion. Saturday and Sunday, I'm reminding that there's a new email. We're back and ready to go on Monday with a new idea to record on Tuesday. You get the point. But I think something that people don't understand is the editing process. So however long the episode is, your editing is about 2 to 3 times longer. So if I say, hi guys, welcome to episode 227, reverse delete. Hi guys, welcome to episode 22, is it 7 or is it 8? Okay, delete that one. Hi guys, welcome to episode 228. Okay, well that sounded angry, so don't do that. Hi, it's episode 228. Oh. And you're like, every time you say something wrong, you have to edit it or re-say it. So that takes a long time. Even though it's a 20-minute episode, it might be as an hour of recording. I also go back and re-listen as I'm recording to make sure my audio's not off. I didn't say something weird. I didn't lisp. There's not something in the background. There's, a million things can go wrong when you're recording. And I think I really pride myself on my audio quality. You have to make sure you're not monotoned. I don't want to sound too excited. I don't want to be too low. A trick that I remember from many years ago was to put a mirror in front of you and to see yourself talking so that you're animated and you don't have a boring voice. Because guess what? People don't listen if you have a boring voice, if you talk too slow, if you're monotoned, if you don't edit and you have a lot of ums, ahs, ees, so's. All of those things, I will so easily not listen to a podcast if I don't like the person's voice or how they talk or how they edit, that I have to make sure that I do none of those things in my podcast. And all of those things take time. Also, the whole process of getting used to listening to your voice, getting used to hearing yourself, making sure that you speak clearly, slowly, make sure that your voice is entertaining to listen to, learning how to tell stories. Like, it's been just like such a journey. Going through all of these episodes is really taking me down memory lane. And this all started with the Little Black Book. So episode 27, the end of the Little Black Book, how interesting. So the podcast started because I wrote down all these crazy stories in this little black book. And I had this book full of stories, and that's how the podcast started. I was like, write things down. When I say write things down, I mean it. And the podcast started off of me writing everything down. So something I started doing early on was mediumship Q&As. I found a lot of people had the same questions, and it was, again, easier for me to just put it on a podcast than keep repeating myself over and over and over again. And now I think the biggest question that I still get, especially if you are new to the podcast or you haven't listened all the way through or you aren't at that episode yet, is why do I not offer mediumship readings? And I talk about this in episode 43, Do I Offer Mediumship Readings? And if you want the long form version of why I don't offer mediumship readings, episode 191, titled Why I Do Not Offer Mediumship Readings, will give you the whole shebang. But long story short, it's a lot of work. Feels like a lot of work. I sweat a lot. It makes me tired. And it is a high pressure job. And if I was going to do that job, I would have to change my entire schedule, because right now I work 6 days a week, so I could only work, 4 or 5 days a week. I would have to see less people a day, which means my prices would have to increase. And I just don't want to do that much mediumship all the time. And the other really, really big reason, besides I don't want to because it's a lot of work for me, not every medium feels like it's a lot of work, but for me it is a lot of energy output to connect to spirit, is that I know a lot of good mediums. I can refer you to a lot of amazing mediums And I know you'll be in good hands. I know there are lots of people I can refer you to. I know there's lots of good mediums from all over the board. $150, $250, $350. How much money do you want to spend? But when people ask me for other Reiki teachers, I can't speak to that. Other manifesting teachers, other business teachers, especially not for what I offer at the price. I was just looking at another medium's coaching program actually today, and I was like, just out of curiosity, I wonder how much this girl's 8-week coaching program is, because I'm doing right now a 12-week coaching program, which is less than $1,000 Canadian, and she's doing an 8-week coaching program that is $6,800 US, $7,000 USD. So are there people out there that you could learn from? Yes, for $7,000 USD. Is there anyone that's going to give you the quality at my price? I have not met anyone else. And also over the years, I really cannot refer anyone that I've not been to personally. And if I am referring someone, it means that I believe they are, in the most humble way, as good as what I'm offering or better. So I would never recommend anyone that isn't up to my standards, up to my level, up to what I would expect you would get from me. So you either have to be as good as me or better for me to refer you, and I have to have experienced your service. There's no way that I can recommend someone that I've never been to. So when people are saying, do you know anyone in this town? Do you know anyone in here? Do you know anyone there? I was like, unless I've been to them personally, I'm sorry, I can't put my stamp of approval on it. In the past, I have. I said, oh, I think this person would be a good teacher. Oh, I wasn't teaching Reiki yet. I think you might like this person. And it's come back where people have relearned with me and they're like, not the same, Steph. I know you were trying to be nice to send me other options, but like, no. So it's hard to put your stamp of approval on things, but I can put my stamp of approval on lots of mediums. I've gone to mediums, I've worked with mediums, I've done group readings with people, I've paid for readings myself, I've bought in readings for family members, I've done everything. I've attended group readings of other mediums, if I've developed with them and they've been my student or I've worked with them. So that's why I feel very confident in referring mediumship, and I know there's not a need. There's not a need for mediums. There's lots, and there's lots of really good ones. I do think there is a need for good, passionate, young teachers. I do think there is a need for affordable support in the spiritual realm, and I want to be that person. I don't want to charge $8,000 for my mentorship. It's under $1,000 for a reason. Canadian, so that's like 700 and something US. I do that on purpose. I am very abundant. I know how to call in money, but I also price things around the problems I see in mentorship. 8 weeks working with someone, I think you maybe got 6 calls on that example that I was using for $7,000. Blows my mind. Anyways, we're getting off track here. But it does kind of lead me into my next point of when the podcast shifted. So for a long, long time, I was just telling you my stories. I was telling you what happened to me. I was telling you how I realized I was a medium. I was telling you what happened after my level 1. I was telling you what happened after I took my Reiki level 2. I was telling you what happened when I was at my friend's house, when I was at yoga, when I was trying to do this, when I was here. And I started to see the reactions from people. And it was very much putting me on a pedestal, thinking I was special, thinking that they needed me, thinking that people had to pay me for something. And I was like, oh, like people think I'm special. I need to shift that. I need people to know that they don't need to pay people like me. Like, you need to trust your intuition. You can connect with your dad. Why do you think your dad's with me? He's with you. Why do you need me to tell you that's your dad in the washroom? He's in your washroom and you think it's your dad. Like, when did we give away all of our power? So there's this shift in the podcast where I stop telling the crazy stories all the time and the focus becomes more lessons. How can you do this? How can you get better at this? Let me help you with something that took me 1.5 years to learn. I don't want it to take you 1.5 years to learn. Let me tell you in 20 minutes, 40 minutes. Let me teach you something in this episode so that people are feeling more empowered. And Taita's the funniest because she's always like, stop teaching people how to do what you do. It's not good for business. don't tell other people how to do it. And I'm like, Taita, abundant, number one. Number two, there's billions of people in the world. I'll always have clients. Don't worry, I'm fine. But the whole point is to teach people that you don't need me anymore. Like, even with my mentees, when people want to come back and come back and come back, I'm like, guys, you don't need me anymore. Like, I'm just your crutch now. And, when people are like, oh, I listened to your podcast for a while and then I stopped. Great. You don't need me anymore. Oh, I was coming to you for Reiki for a while, but now I found somebody else. Great. You don't need me anymore. I walked with you as far as I needed to. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this industry is there will always be new people for me to walk with. And there will always be people graduating from, my experiences and my offerings. And I think that's another thing that I stay very niche in. I niche down to the beginning of your journey. I am very good at the beginning of your journey because I have documented everything since day one of my mediumship development. This is literally how the podcast was born. I started documenting everything. And I am good at helping other people at their beginning of their journeys because of my experience going through it over the last 7 years. So same thing when you're looking for something more advanced, when you're looking for the next steps, when you're looking for, after you're already doing mediumship readings and charging $150 and you want more training, I'm not the teacher for you. You go find the next teacher that's teaching at that level. So yeah, the podcast has just really taught me so much. It's given me so much. Like when I learn things, I want to share it with you guys. When I go through something, I want to share it with you guys. When I have a lesson, I want to share it with you guys. And it's been this amazing community of middlers over the last 5 years. It's built me a successful business. I've been working on my own for 4 years. And you guys know I've talked about how I've tripled my old income. I have met amazing people. I have an in-person business. I have an online business. I do retreats. I travel for work. I teach Reiki level 1 monthly. I teach Reiki level 2 monthly. I teach Reiki masters. I have a lineage now in Reiki. I do retreats. I do Psych K sessions, distance Reiki, Akashic Records. Like the road has been long and windy. I offered Akashic Records. I stopped offering Akashic Records. I brought Akashic Records back, but I've brought you guys with me on every step of the journey to be like, hey, this is why I'm doing this. Hey, this is why I'm doing this now. Hey, I'm now offering card readings. Hey, I'm not doing that anymore. Hey, this is a special offering. Hey, I want to teach on business. Hey, I'm doing a 6-month mastermind. Hey, I'm doing mentorship. Like everything's just been you along with me. It's like, this is what I'm going through. And now we're in real time. So you guys get all of the updates of what is it like being a full-time business owner? What is it like being intuitive all the time? What is it like when spirit sneaks into your life when I'm cooking or when I'm at the grocery store or when I'm at a party or when I've had a few drinks and someone asks me about their dad? And I think that's why this podcast has been so successful because you've grown with me since episode 1. I've shared everything with you over the last 5 years. There is something for everyone to feel relatable, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel understood. And even if we can't meet up and have a coffee anymore, it's still, that, hey, that happened to me. Oh, I had that experience. And this podcast has really turned into, I want other people to not feel as alone as I did for that first year and a half and trying to find your tribe. And we're intuitives. We know when it's our tribe or not. So when someone says, I started listening to your podcast and then I listened to 50 episodes in a week, it's like, oh yeah, once you're in, you're like, yep, I'm in. I'm a middler. This makes sense. This is what I'm feeling. This is how I connect. So it's just so interesting to click back through my episodes here. 162, why are mediumship readings, quote unquote, so expensive? You guys know I hate those words, but just another really good episode about why mediumship readings cost what they cost. You're not just paying for the 45 minutes the person is sitting in front of you. I talk so much about Reiki, spirit, energy, money mindset, boundaries, my favorite word, boundaries. Dealing with guilt around boundaries. How to figure out your sensing spirit, fun psychic stories. Oh my gosh, what a walk down memory lane. When I received my first psychic reading, oh my gosh, that was back in 2022, episode 137. But this is all to say, this entire reflection and looking back is to say that it was April 2018 when everything started happening. It was September 2018 when I got the hit to do a podcast. It was December, January, February 2018-19 when I was trying to figure out a name for the podcast. It was March when I bought the equipment. It was 6 months later that I finally launched my first 3 episodes, and I have been releasing weekly podcasts ever since August 2019. I just cannot stress enough the journey of this and the time it took to build the listeners. I remember my first episode, the first 3 episodes, I got 47 listens. 47 listens, and I was like, oh my gosh, 47 people listened to me, and I don't even think it was that many because I think it was just downloads. So 47 over 3 is 15 people-ish listened to 3 episodes, which was probably like all my friends and family. And now it's crazy that Medium in the Middle is almost at 500,000 downloads. Wow, in the last 7 days, 5,000 people have listened. In the last 30 days, 18,000 people have listened. If you told me that in August 2019, I don't even want to say I wouldn't believe you. I don't even know what I would say. I didn't even imagine this was this wasn't even in my awareness back then. I wasn't thinking about starting a business. I wasn't thinking about going online. I wasn't thinking about teaching online. Like none of that was even in my realm of awareness. And the other question that I get very often is, what is my favorite episode? And honestly, I couldn't pick one. So I don't think I have a favorite episode. I do think the first 10 episodes are the most crazy or shocking. But then as I think back to them, I think, are they crazy and shocking because it was the first 5 to 10 times I communicated with spirit, and now it's just so normal? Like when people are telling me things that happened to them, I'm like, yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah, that's normal. So I don't know if I think it's normal and maybe it's not. Like maybe there are some other stories that have been crazy, but it's just like, yeah, that's just spirit, just like another day as a medium. So again, it's hard to say. I could never pick a favorite. And when you do something every week for 5 years, when you release 228 episodes, yeah, I just want to honor myself and all the hard work that this has been, everything I've put into it. I don't make any money directly off of this podcast, but it does fully funnel into my business, and it gives me a fully booked, sold out business, and it has for the last 4 years, going into year 5 of business. So this is my marketing. I don't know. I'm kind of speechless. I don't know what to say about 5 years. It feels huge. It feels like forever. It feels like, I don't know why I don't have the words right now. A podcaster not having words. But in the spirit of not just telling crazy stories and talking about myself, I just want to remind people that everyone has a chapter 1, and please don't compare my chapter 228 to your chapter 5 or 7. Every single week I've been doing this for 5 years. So the last thing that I will say is thank you. Thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart to every middler, to every listener, to every download, to every share, to every person who's listened to 50 episodes in a week, to every person that's told a friend, to everyone who's booked an appointment with me, had a course with me, purchased anything from me. You have no idea what you're doing to some girl sitting in her tiny little office recording this for you. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being there when I couldn't find my tribe. Thank you for being my tribe. This all feels so surreal. And without the 500,000 downloads, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't continue to record every week without your support. And just thank you so much for being here. Thank you for 5 years, middlers. So for the 228th time, I will say, Please leave a rating and a review, especially if you've been here for a while. It really helps me out in the podcast world. Just a 5-star rating and a few words about the podcast is so appreciated. If you want to book an appointment with me, the medium in the middle, you can find me for in-person services or distance services. I offer everything in person in Banff, Alberta, or distantly via Zoom. If you want to join any of my courses, workshops, I will leave all the links you need down below in the show notes. Can't believe I've been saying this for 5 years. I haven't found anything better to say to end my episodes. But until next Wednesday, Middlers, when I see you in your ears, I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye, everybody. Happy to have been in your ears for 5 years.